Soldiers are pulled in a world where giant monsters coexist with humans. Welcome back to Cinema Recaps. Today I'll show you Monster Hunter, a 2020 monster film based on the video game series of the same name by Capcom. The film follows Artemis and her loyal soldiers when they're transported to a new world, where they engage in a battle for survival against enormous monsters with incredible powers. Spoiler ahead, watch out and take care. The film opens in a location called the New World, where a ship of hunters sailing across a sandy desert. Unfortunately, their ship awakens a sand-dwelling creature called a Diablos, a horned subterranean monster. It tries to knock over the ship by pushing it with its giant body. Meanwhile, the Admiral rushes to the wheel and tries to steer the vessel out of the monster's way. But several hunters lost their lives as the beast attacks the ship. In the chaos, one lone hunter falls from the ship and is left behind by his crew. In the real world, a team of soldiers including Dash, Link, Marshall, Steeler, and Axe, led by Captain Natalie Artemis, are searching for the missing soldiers in the desert. The only clues they have are a recording of their SOS message and the wheel tracks on the road. Suddenly, wheel tracks come to a stop, as if the vehicle had disappeared in thin air. There are also some mysterious rock markers near the road with symbols they can't read. In the meantime, a dark storm appears in front of them, moving at a frantic speed. The team gets on their vehicles in order to escape, as the storm hits all the mysterious markers with lightning, making the writing on them glow up. The storm is faster and soon reaches their cars, engulfing them inside a portal as the vehicles fall off the edge of a canyon. The cars are pushed by the wind. They roll and turn over and over, throwing the people inside off their seats. Finally, the team wakes up in the desert. All their electronics are fried, and not even their compass is working. So they decide to try to return back to the base by navigating using the sun. In the next scene, they come across the charred remains of the B team, burnt by something more powerful than anything man-made. Artemis leads her team in their vehicles until they come across a mind-blowing thing, what appears to be a giant rib cage. From a distance, the hunter can see them and attempts to warn them with an arrow covered in chalk, but the soldiers misinterpret it as an attack and respond by opening fire. Soon, the Diablos begins to make its way toward the team underground before bursting out of the sand. It chases them down as they try to fire upon it. In the chaos, Axe is killed when the Diablos swings at him. Steeler is also impaled by its horn. Right after dying, he throws a couple of grenades at the monster, which doesn't hurt him but offers an opening for his team to hide among the rock formations. The squad enters a cave with an entrance too small for the monster to follow them, so it gives up for now and leaves. Dash starts to panic about their situation, but Artemis, as the leader, gives out orders and tells them to be good soldiers and survive as such. Her words are interpreted, however, when she's suddenly taken by a spider-like monster called Nerscylla. It injects her with some paralyzing venom before dropping her and running away when the soldiers start shooting at it. Marshall and Lincoln try to give Artemis CPR, but all in vain. Dash begs them to get going because more Nerscyllas are coming out. Assuming Artemis is dead, Lincoln, Marshall, and Dash leave the cave as they continue to fire at the monsters. Dash trips and falls, delaying her group's escape. This allows one of the monsters to attack from above and capture Marshall. Meanwhile, Artemis wakes up, feeling rather dizzy. She can hear her teammates' screams coming from the outside, but she's soon knocked out again when a Nerscylla finds her. The next time she awakens in a web pod made by the Nerscylla. She finds Dash dead and tries to make her way out. Later, she finds Link on her way. He starts to complain about a pain in his body, which is revealed to be a bunch of eggs formed onto his skin. As they start to hatch, the bigger Nerscylla devours Link. Artemis starts climbing the exit. She almost makes it, but a Nerscylla grabs her leg and drags her back in. She frees herself by throwing the bullets, which explode by the fire. When she finally comes out of the cave, it's morning, and the sunlight prevents the Nerscyllas from following her. Unfortunately, the rest of her teammates didn't make it. Afterwards, she goes up the hill to get a better understanding of the area, but she only sees desert all around her and the storm that brought her here far on the horizon. Artemis continues her exploration of the rocky area while Hunter follows her. When she enters the remains of the ship, she's jumped on and grabbed by Hunter from behind, but she reacts quickly and begins a hand-to-hand fight. The Hunter manages to overpower and win the fight. After tying up her hands, he takes Artemis to his cave to avoid the Nerscylla. He didn't let her drink or eat. The next morning, Artemis eventually frees herself and hits him with a rod. She ties him firmly. When she tries to drink from his bowl, he kicks the water away from her, and she retaliated by throwing something at two small figures. Their fighting eventually leads them to attract more Nerscylla, so they compromise to a truce. Artemis even gives the hunter some chocolate that she was carrying, which leads him to develop a taste for it. He responds by giving her water. Artemis makes it clear to the hunter that she needs to return home through the rift that brought her there, but she can't do that without getting past the Diablos. The hunters suggest that they use the Nerscylla's venom to poison the Diablos. He then helps Artemis prepare to fight the creatures by showing her how to wield his weapons. They set a trap for one Nerscylla and take its fang before retreating to the cave. There, Artemis teaches the hunter some of her languages, while she learns that the two figures he carries represents his wife and child that he lost a while ago. The next day, Artemis and the hunter head out to take the stand against the Diablos. They lure it to a shipwreck and fire arrows laced with Nerscylla venom at it. Artemis fires what she can at the Diablos, while the hunter tries to drive his sword into the monster's head. The Diablos knocks him off, but Artemis makes her way onto the top of its head and jams the sword deeper into its skull until the beast is finally brought down. Artemis then goes to tend to the hunter. She manages to revive him, and they continue on their journey. The two make their way to an area where herbivorous monsters dwell. Further up is the Sky Tower that can get Artemis home. They gather food and water before setting up camp for the night. Later, a larger winged monster called the Rathalos begins to set the forest ablaze, frightening the other monsters and sending them running on fire. The hunter's previous crew, led by the Admiral, arrives to send the creatures away and get Artemis and the hunter out of danger. However, just after Artemis thanks the Admiral, he knocks her unconscious. Artemis wakes up chained in a cage with the other crew members, observing her like an animal. They also have a feline, a humanoid cat that's also their chef. The Admiral frees Artemis and explains that he's just protecting his world and knows that others like Artemis have crossed over into this world. He believes that the gateway between worlds would cause catastrophe to this world as a result of our world's influence. He tells Artemis about the Rathalos and that it's extremely dangerous, but it's weakest before it breathes fire. They plan to launch an attack against the beast to get Artemis home. Artemis follows the Admiral and his crew as they attack the Rathalos. As the creature retaliates, Artemis runs off a ledge from the Sky Tower, which sends her back to the real world. She's found by other soldiers, but the Rathalos also made its way through. Fortunately, Artemis manages to grab a crossbow and an explosive. She times it just right before the creature breathes fire, and she shoots at its mouth, causing a massive explosion within. This wasn't enough to kill it, and it attempts to go for Artemis again until the hunter shows up to fire explosive arrows at it, finally killing the Rathalos. The Admiral shows up to tell Artemis that another monster's coming and to prepare for another attack. Artemis decides to continue fighting with them, and they launch another counterattack. During the credits, Artemis is seen returning to New World with the hunter and Admiral, all three still fighting the beast, while a hooded figure observes from overhead. The feline then shows up to join in on the fight. That's all about this video. Don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel and hit that bell icon to stay up to date with such interesting movie recap videos here at Cinema Recaps.